Good evening. We're here with Jerry Liscombe Jr. of Kinross Speed Park. How are you tonight, Jerry?
Good, Jay. How are you doing?
Good, good. You enjoying the weather out there?
I can't complain with the 20 plus degrees, can you?
Only thing is talking racing, but we don't know when we're going to get there, right?
You got her. You got her.
So one first big question: when it comes to Kinross being so close to the Canadian border, we have two different governments' decisions come to effect when it comes to Kinross. Big question is: will Kinross open before the U.S. Canadian border opens?
Uh, the simple answer, Jay, is no. In regards to our schedule, and you asking about that specifically, the 2020 season, I think the biggest thing I can stress is that it's on hold. With that said, all options are on the table when it's permitted. But as you know, and anyone that follows us knows, we're privileged and we're appreciative that we have the support of the drivers, fans, sponsors, and volunteers from two great countries, just separated by an international border. And in this area, that border is closed into the month of June. So we're just not in a position to operate without our entire racing family. That leads to our success. So I know that's a long answer for what you're asking, but that's basically where we stand in that regard.
And it's something again being June 21st. So between let's say the national government, I guess the federal government in the states and our government here, then it comes down to Ontario and Michigan. There's so much contributing there. It's so many working pieces for you guys, and percentage of your cars come from the Algoma area also. So it puts a little bit more impact on you, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does, and I want to stress that that's not the sole factor in, especially why I wanted to talk to you today. Because aside from the bridge factor, I wanted to inform you and inform everybody on behalf of Fox Boys Racing that we're in constant contact with all the sources that we need to be. So we've been in touch with our township supervisor, who's on board for us to obviously to be able to do what we can when the time permits. We've obviously been dealing with our insurance, but most recently, for me. I've talked to the health officer of the Chippewa County Health Department, and I've talked with House Representative and the Speaker of the House, Lee Chatfield's office down in Lansing. And both have provided me the same directive that Kinross Speed Park and our type of facilities, we are not under current government regulations permitted to operate. Mass gatherings, venues like ours are not exempt by their current legislation and the law that's in effect in Michigan. So I've been talking to them a lot, getting the directive from them, getting the directive from those two sources. And they both told me the exact same thing. And we're going to stay in constant communication as things develop in the state of Michigan from the government aspect and from a health aspect, exactly what we would have to follow and when it moves into that phase that we can be prepared for it.
And it's something people who know you and that, like I say, during the winter or year round, you're with the Greyhounds, but also in the summer you do racing. So you're not used to this time of year where you're just Greyhounds and racing. You're just sitting and waiting. So it's something that you're not used to at this time of year for yourself, aren't you?
No, I'm not. I'm definitely not. And it's Jay, it's a waiting pattern. I can't reiterate it enough to anyone that's watching this now or watching it later when it's archived. The season at Kinross is not canceled by any means. All options are on the table for us. We've talked with our core group, talked with Mike and Paul, and we'll practice when we're allowed to. We'll race when we're allowed to, and when those situations that I've discussed earlier, when they all come into play, and when all the chips align properly, then we'll be ready. And we're still working on things to get prepared so that when that bridge opens, when we can open our pit gate, when we can open our front gate, we'll be ready to go, and we'll have the proper information to do so.
And when you're talking about opening your pit gate and stuff and getting to the track, and again, there's improvements you wanted to make this year, not just for because you host a hot shoe that's a big event at Kinross, but does this hurt with sponsors and acquiring sponsors for 2020 because you're not racing? Because May 30th, your first race is surely going to be canceled, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, people can look at our website. I pretty much pushed everything back into the month of July. That's everything's tentative. If things can happen sooner, we'll open sooner. It's all right now. It's all hypotheticals as to what we can actually do. So it's hard to really give anyone a definite date. And I know people probably want to hear definite information, but regardless of what side of the border you live on, I think we know that everything right now is day by day. And once we get the directive from the governments, then we can act accordingly. But yeah, things will be pushed back. But again, things are not canceled. They're just in a holding pattern right now as far as actual events. For us behind the scenes, it's still business as usual, trying to get things ready and getting done what we have to get done.
And it's something again. I did an interview earlier today for Sioux Sports with Danny Lambert, and I do a Goma, so I do other thing, wear other hats like similar to you. And this COVID-19 pandemic is bigger than all of us when it comes to racing, no matter what, right?
Oh, it absolutely is. And regardless of your political stripes, regardless of what you agree or disagree with, I think the utmost concern is for everybody involved on both sides of the border and worldwide. And I can't stress that enough. I mean, for our standpoint, we're hoping that everybody is staying safe and staying healthy and doing what they have to do so that we all can gather together as a racing family and be at that one facility ready to go when time permits us to be.
And the thing is again, your weekly racing is a big chunk of what you do over at Kinross every other week. But you host the Hot Shoe 100 that raises money for cancer. You have your Invitational, and you also have your championships. Those are your three major events on top of your weekly racing. Um, with the season probably being shortened, how does that those three come to an effect?
I mean, as far as the invitational, obviously that would be our goal to continue to have it. Fair night, that's tough for me to answer because that obviously involves a Chippewa County fair, and who knows how fairs are going to progress. They're no different than us. They're no different than other festivals we've seen canceled. So that's something I haven't talked to the Chippewa County Fair Board as to how they're going to progress. I'm sure they're in a holding pattern as well. And then when it comes to the hot shoe, can we just continue to receive inquiries about the camping, about everything that goes along with it? And I've personally had the opportunity to talk to the Gray crew and talk to Kim and Bud and just communicated that we keep the event on the schedule. We don't push the panic button despite we're on uncertain times. And I know when the time comes, and racing resumes, the search situations around the state and just the way things have been going on, it's going to provide its challenges, no doubt. But I'm 100% confident in the racers, the volunteers, and everyone that puts that event on at our facility, that we can build off last year and make this year successful. It'll have its bumps or challenges leading into it, but obviously I'm very hopeful. And when it comes to those three events, they are big for us, and hopefully we can continue to have all three when we can get back racing.
And that's something again you've been in touch with, I guess, the politicians regarding what's going on. But when it comes, we get back to racing. Obviously, social distancing protocols are going to be in place. And how, from your end and from your crew's end, how difficult is that going to be? Are they suggesting anything there yet?
That's the thing, Jay, is that they're not because, for example, talking to the Chippewa County Health Department, they've just been given recently the guidelines for when it comes to restaurants and bars and the businesses that the state of Michigan's allowing to open in the UP. There is no guidelines right now for from the government and from the CDC regarding mass gatherings in venues like a racetrack. So when I talk to the health officer, there is no she can't even give me any guidelines right now to prepare because there's been nothing stated about our type of facilities in regards to what their expectations are going to be. So that's still an unknown, to be honest.
And it's something again. A lot of race fans also watch NASCAR, and the first race out this past weekend is NASCAR had to learn how to social distance, and their crews sat back, and it's something right now we got to adapt and change with for now, isn't it?
Oh, it is. I mean, you never know, and when you see at that level that they have to do it, and that's going to affect sports in general across the world, as we've seen NASCAR being the first to get back going. So it's interesting. When I think of that, though, I think we're also fortunate with the mass facility we have at Kinross and being at the Chippewa County Fairgrounds. There's a lot of room. So if we got to spread people out, we'll have to be intuitive and creative to make that happen.
And it's something that you mentioned about talking to Mike and Paul Fox, and that. What are your thoughts on possibly racing again? You don't know. Would you do it without fans? And if you had only limited access, would you do pay per view?
Um, I think the easy answer is all options are on the table. I mean, things have to be viable for any facility to be able to operate. It has to be good for everyone involved, whether it's the racers, the fans, and the track itself. But I wouldn't say yes. I wouldn't say no. I think the easy answer to tell you, Jay, is all options are on the table because we don't know what direction things are going to be allowed or what restrictions are going to be in place when that time comes.
And how many emails and messages are you getting every day about racing right now?
I'll be honest. I think it's been. I'm happy to get on here. I think it's been kind of quiet. I mean, you have some usuals that ask or will inquire, or you'll see in passing around town. But I think everybody's chomping at the bit, and I think we want to race just as much as everyone else. But I am sure I could speak the same for you and those that are watching. Is that everybody's been so consumed with how their lives have been affected and how their lives have been changed that unfortunately at times like this, some other things become a priority. And I think I'm not saying racing's went to the wayside by any means, but it's been a busy and an unusual time for all of us.
And it's something. It's um, when it comes to Mike and Paul Fox and Ken Ross. What would there be any not repercussions, but if there wasn't a 2020 season with short track racing at Kinross?
I don't even wanna think of that scenario, to be honest. The track's been through, anyone that knows the history of the track, we've been through our struggles. The track has sat dormant. Mike and Paul are the ones that brought it back during the Chippewa County Fair during those 2 off seasons, and fortunately, with the group that we have, with everybody involved from all aspects of the track, it's rebounded. So I don't wanna look at that. I don't wanna even consider that an option. Hopefully, that green flag will be dropping sooner than later.
And it's something as like say as a promoter with what you do for the Foxes. And are you worried about drivers and cars? Like when it comes to the United States, it's a stimulus check, and here for people who aren't working because I guess we call it CERB, the government money that's helped. With that, with the people not getting as much money with smaller budgets, maybe less sponsors, is that going to hurt car counts when racing does come back and the green flag drops?
I think the passion is there with the racers, and of course it obviously could. I think we're fortunate in the same token. In a lot of instances, people already have the cars. There is a lot of cars out there. Whether people can find the means to get to the track, I'm obviously hopeful they would be able to, but it's a hobby and it's a burning desire. And people will find a way when it comes time to be able to race. I'm sure.
And it's something I know. Again, you're used to being at, or like I say, right now it's Thursday night. Tomorrow, right after Greyhound stuff's done, you'd be at the track until Sunday. Um, you're not there, and I know everything's pushed off. But is there improvements that you're still looking to do for this upcoming season that fans and racers can expect to be excited about?
I don't know if there's any major improvements that maybe necessarily would be notable to the fan and to the naked eye. We did a lot of that last year, for months in preparation of the season and in preparation of the inaugural hot shoe. We did a lot, but yeah, there's always things that you can do to improve the grounds in the pit area and lighting. And there's stuff that obviously I've talked with Terry Joss about, and Mike and Paul, and I'm sure that things will still get done with some other help from other parties as well. So yeah, I mean we're always looking to continue to elevate the bar and raise the bar and make things better at Kinross. And I don't think that'll change even under the circumstances. We'll still pick away at a few things when we can and get things done to continue to move forward.
And that's something a show going into the after I guess the long weekend or the weekend of the hot shoe after that, the number of car count was up and people are getting excited. So hopefully with this, it just creates a little bit more of a buzz. They want to get back and get on the track, right?
Yeah, and I think that accounts for the drivers and the fans. I mean, we've all been in quarantine and in our houses and staying safe for the last 2 months. Who knows how long on either side of the border it's going to last? So much has already been taken away from communities because of this unfortunate pandemic, and I think people will be looking for things to do and chomping at the bit when time allows them to be and when it's safe to do so.
And it's something like I'll use my father-in-law for instance. Not a UFC fan, not really a NASCAR fan, but he's been watching both because it's actually live, real sports happening. So it's showing that people really want their sports back, right?
Oh, for sure. You're telling me the replays on TV right now aren't cutting it?
Not the 1982 or 83
No.
gold medal. I mean, championship Stanley Cup game. No,
Right, right. No, I hear you.
but I use a lot of people. Were talking. My father, for instance, is not a big computer guy, but he was enjoying the iRacing just because it was racing to watch.
That was really realistic, to be honest. When you watch that, it would be fun to take a shot at that. But I'll tell you what, when you look at some of those setups that those guys have, there's some hefty money set up in that. I think that's above mine and your pay grade, Jay.
But even a few drivers that I have through Rev It Up Racing, even some of their setups in Michigan, what they have in their garages in their
Yeah,
basements is they're it's like they're sitting in behind the wheel of their cars.
yeah. Some pretty darn good fabricators.
Yeah, and not as expensive. So you wreck your car, it's not nearly as much, right?
Just hit that reset button.
Except for what I forget which was it Newman's daughter who turned off the monitor and he lost the race.
Oh, really? I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, one of the second to last ICAR race, daughter walked in the office and tripped over his cord, and he was leading the race and lost it because she unplugged the computer.
No.
So it's something again. Fans are and and I'm not saying the pandemic is helping Ken Ross, but it comes back. It might bring in some fans that you never had because they're that excited to have sports back, right?
Yeah, and I mean, you're gonna have some that'll probably be hesitant to go to any facility or any big venue or whatever the case may be. But I think you might generate some new fans too. And I just go back to, I mean, you could be hopeful of that, right? I mean, if there's any silver lining in this entire situation we're in that you can look at, you'd be hopeful that maybe you would gain some new fans because I think the opportunities this summer for any of us to do anything on either side of the border are really limited. It seemed a couple weeks ago it was daily that we were hearing of cancellations. So I think when you can provide an entertainment option, when you can provide that family environment, and you can provide that place for someone to go, definitely, I think you may get someone that normally didn't walk through that gates possibly would do so.
And it's something I use in the UP. We have 3 tracks, yourself, Norway, and Sands, and is there any plans on working together or anything doing there with I know the season, we don't know what's happening, but any plans there at all, or
I've talked to both of the individuals managing both those facilities in the past, and with Kim over at Sands and John Osterman in Norway. But I think they're all in holding patterns too, because everyone's in a different situation. I don't want to speak for them, but I know obviously in Norway they're at a county fairgrounds that would have to adhere to different regulations and standards there. And with Sands, I'm sure they're just waiting to see what goes on as well. So the communication, I mean, maybe we have just friendly banter, but nothing specific like we did probably about a month and a half ago as to what we were going to do together, because there's too many unknowns right now when anybody's going to be able to open up those pit gates.
and for yourself being a race fan, how much racing are you watching down farther in the States right now just to keep that flame, going?
Well, I notice on your site you keep posting press releases, so it's interesting to see what places are doing and who's under the jurisdictions to be able to open. So no, you're watching it. You're kind of envious. It's kind of not fun to read that stuff, but no, it is. I mean, it's good that some are able to get back going and able to do things, but you follow it maybe a little bit more because you want that entertainment and some of that to be able to watch.
And it's something I brought in about a little bit about protocols and stuff like that, but as a promoter and Mike and Paul, and I don't know if you've talked about it, would you do it without any fans in the stands, or could you?
We kind of touched base on that earlier. All options are on the table. I don't think it's fair to talk or even to commit or even to entertain something like that when you don't know what the options are going to be. I think that's just a minor option, because if you're limited on fans, the reality is, Jay, you could be limited on how many people can go in your pit area, and then at that point you'd have to look at if it's viable or not. So there's a lot of factors that you have to weigh the pros and the cons before I think you can make that type of decision.
Yeah, it's just like you say when we were saying we're watching some of the again power of being online, watching some of the races down farther in the states. They're racing without fans, right? And it's something the other day I watched the final so many laps with NASCAR with Harvick, and when he got out of his car, first thing he did is put off his helmet, said to Reagan Smith, "Can I get near you to talk?" And second of all, he looked in the stands. He goes, "There's nobody here. It's totally different." So it's a
Yeah.
totally different atmosphere right now.
Oh, it is for sure. It's definitely a different atmosphere. They're just fortunate, obviously, with the sponsorship dollars at a level of NASCAR and TV rights that they can continue to operate and provide us that entertainment they are doing right now.
And did you watch the race the other day?
I didn't actually. I didn't. The first one I did, but not the last one.
Yeah, and again, it's at least it's starting to come back, and that's something we wish, like you say, the best for everybody when it comes to the pandemic. But racing comes second. We how we started it off,
Yeah, and everything's to be honest, everything's out of our control right now. We have to wait for the proper word, and we have to get the proper guidelines that we can follow. And until we do that, unfortunately, we just have to wait and see.
and how much is Terry bugging you right now just to get back at that track? We know Terry more or less lives there from to May September, so he must be driving going crazy.
We stay in a lot of contact. I'm leaning on him a little heavier than I already do, and that's heavy enough. But he can go out there, and so a lot of the stuff we've talked about, I'll be leaning on him along with Mike and Paul and others to be able to get some stuff done as what we've discussed.
So he must be driving Jeanette a little bit more crazy than usual with being cooped up in the house.
I don't know about that. They got the side by side brand new camper, so they can enjoy things.
And it's not just saying you have a lot of volunteers that help you out, but we know Terry is more or less there all the time. So it's something that we know he enjoys his beer too at after the races, and now he's going to just have that with Jeanette and say that social distancing.
That's stay the 6 feet or 2 meters. You got her.
Oh, she's probably not complaining about that.
Right, right. You're gonna get a message from him later, Jay.
Exactly, exactly. Now, is there anything else you'd like to add before I let you go, Jerry?
I mean, I think the biggest thing, Jay, is what I said right off the top is just to stress to everyone that the 2020 season at Kinross is not by any means canceled. We're simply in a holding pattern until we get those guidelines from local government, until we get those guidelines from the health unit. Obviously, until that bridge opens and our entire racing family can be a racing family as a whole, not as a half, we're just going to be in holding pattern. It's our intentions to still get racing in at Kinross. Can't give definite dates or wherever that may be. We're just going to wait and see how it progresses and what we're allowed to do. And I mean, other than that, just I guess on behalf of Mike Paul and everyone, pass along our thoughts to everyone in hopes that everyone's staying healthy and staying safe. And again, just say we're committed. We're committed to Kinross. We're committed to 2020, and we just all want to be together again, doing what we love and creating that family through short track racing when we're allowed to be.
And the thing is, and I know we're in northern Ontario and Kinross is northern Michigan, so we're in the north. Could you extend the season being into September if you have to?
That's where I say all options are on the table. We've talked to the township supervisor. We've talked to our local government, who we deal with, obviously, with the facility. There's not an option that's off the table right now. The only option is saying, yeah, there's no option off the table. So anything people can expect, anything. I can only suggest staying tuned on your websites, watching our Facebook and our website, racekinross.com, or our Facebook page, and we'll update everybody accordingly when we can. And we'll do what we can when we can to the best of our abilities. And yeah, no options are off the table at this point.
And that would make it just a crazier fall for you if you had to extend the season, right?
You don't know what's going on with hockey yet, Jay. So that's what I mean. Everything's flipped upside down. Everything. I mean, it doesn't just affect Kinross. It affects sports, hockey, basketball, graduations. You don't know what you're going to be allowed to have. So who knows? Who knows?
And this isn't
But yes, it potentially could. It potentially
yeah,
could.
and this isn't really racing, but people who know you, how much has it been a change to have to work from home with everything you're doing?
First week, great. Hate it. I would not. I would not. I could not work at home. I couldn't. It's anyone that knows me, as you're saying, that watches, I'm a social butterfly. So not having that social connection, not being around your coworkers, not being able to interact with people in the building you work with, and just being out in the public, it's not fun. So yeah, word of advice: working from home is not cool.
Now, thing is, you are doing better than me, or a lot better than me, and I don't know. You're still doing your 2 walks a day.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're delaying my second one, by the way. Yeah,
So, well,
got to keep something to keep busy. That's all.
exactly. Like you say, it's too easy to get up, walk to the fridge, and then back to the couch, right?
Right. Yeah, yeah. That's after the walk.
Yeah. Well, Jerry, I can't thank you enough, and hopefully we can do this as soon as the season starts to let everybody know what's going on. And when when you hear stuff from the governments, we'll do this again.
Yeah, and as soon as I hear any information, you'll be the first one I know, so we can get it out there, Jay. Appreciate it as always.
Thank you.